Now, I wrote a piece in the build-up to this game on my Substack talking about the fact that Arne Slot had given his players a little bit of time off after the West Ham game, and in the build-up to this, in recognition of the work that they got through. But I have to say, judging by the evidence of the 2-2 draw with Manchester United that we've just seen here at Anfield, you have to say that the manager probably made a mistake in that one, because I thought Liverpool's performance today was a very poor one, really, and so sloppy, so lethargic at times, and just not much good to say about it, really. And I think, you have to, as a starting point, maybe credit Manchester United. I mean, they came here under a new manager, didn't they? They've not had a lot of luck recently, or a lot of good results or good performances, and yet they came here with a very, very clear plan, and I thought every single Manchester United player absolutely executed it, and his team very much worked the socks off for him, Ruben Amorim. So I thought they were impressive in that regard, and the plan was basically to be compact, to make it really difficult, not give Liverpool much space, and then be good on the break, which pretty similar to the plan we've seen Erik ten Hag whenever he's faced Liverpool in recent years. But the fact is, Liverpool should be good enough to counter that sort of plan. They come up against it an awful lot, and I know United, obviously not shown it this season, but in terms of quality can be a step up from the usual sides you find who are playing a kind of deep block and looking to break. But as I say, Liverpool have got enough quality and enough nous and enough about them, really, to kind of counter that and be all over a team like that and dominate a game like this. And yet, I just didn't see it happening. It felt, the fact was that Liverpool's press seemed to be a second late constantly, so they were being played around. They were far too easy to counter. They looked so open. This is a side that has controlled so many games this season. They've dominated, penned teams in, and they just weren't able to do it against this Manchester United side. A quick look at the statistics doesn't maybe tell the full story, because Liverpool 2.87 expected goals to 1.03 I've got here for Manchester United. But as I say, I don't think that actually tells the story, because it makes it seem like Liverpool were completely dominant throughout and absolutely deserved to win this game. But as you move through the shots, it gives you a better picture, really. Liverpool 19 shots to Manchester United's 13, so a little bit closer in that regard. So it shows you a lot of Liverpool's XG kind of comes from the volume of shots, not the fact that they were constantly carving United open, because that definitely wasn't the case in this game. And then you look at shots on target, and that really does underline what this game was about. 6 shots on target for Liverpool, 4 for Manchester United. So, United were, although they were conceding some shots, they weren't giving up good quality shots, and Liverpool weren't able to get those shots on target. And themselves, when they had opportunities to counter, it tended to end in really good opportunities that they should be scoring. So it just felt like throughout the game, really, they were threatening in that way, Manchester United, that whenever they were going to get a chance, it was going to come to something, or it felt like it was going to be a good chance. Whereas for Liverpool, every time they were knocking at the door, it didn't really feel that way. And as I say, a lot of that came from the fact, really, that Liverpool weren't winning the battle as well. Those moments where you do get a counter opportunity, it's important, isn't it, to be in a good structure, to be able to snuff it out. But Liverpool weren't winning those little individual battles that pop up after maybe a loose ball or whatever. It always seemed like the Manchester United player would get it under control, fight someone off, and then turn and play out, and then all of a sudden United were playing into space. And I think probably the best way of underlining that is the fact that Liverpool didn't make a single tackle in that first half, really, and that kind of shows you how poor that first half performance in particular was, and the fact that I think that really gave United a chance to get some confidence going in the game. You think back to maybe the Manchester City game here, where Liverpool ran over them and beat them 2-0 here. That first kind of 10-15 minutes, Liverpool just hammered them. They were getting shots, they were pressing, they were winning the ball. Here we kind of saw nothing like that, and as I say, it just gave United confidence, and they kind of grew and grew from there. And they already had a good plan, as I said, but if you're making no tackles in that first half, it makes it too easy for a side to settle down, to quieten the crowd down, which definitely happened, and then kind of grow from there. And I think the one upside you were thinking when it got to half time was, okay, well look, Arne Slot is very, very good at finding weaknesses in the opposition. He's sorted out so many games, hasn't he, in the second half. We really didn't kind of see evidence of that in the second half. I just didn't see a huge leap in performance, really. I think that the thing that got Liverpool going in that second half was the fact that Manchester United scored a goal. As soon as that happened, it kind of got Liverpool going. But again, they sustained it for the period up to going 2-1 and then fell away again, and all the same problems being played through, being countered too easy, not winning individual battles across the pitch. they seemed to rear their head again, to the point that, you know, United pop up and get that second goal, and it wasn't a huge shock. It certainly didn't really feel like it. And the fact is, you know, you come away from this result, the 2-2 draw here, and feel like Manchester United absolutely did deserve it. I mean, not least because Harry Maguire has a chance right at the end that he should finish, and thankfully kind of blasts it over the bar, but it's just inside the box, and he really should be putting that away. So obviously United could have pinched a 3-2 win, and in the end, as I say, I think Liverpool have to maybe be kind of happy with the 2-2 draw they got at the end, which coming into this game you would have been shocked to say that, really, when you consider the two sides' form. But here we are at the end of a kind of a disappointing result for Liverpool, you have to say. And although it doesn't do the title chances any real harm because of the results that have been around them recently, it is a bit of a dent, and it is disappointing because it is, of course, Manchester United, and you do not want to be dropping points to them. You do not want to see a jubilant away end there in that corner of Anfield, do you? So really, really disappointing day at the office for Liverpool, you have to say. And just rather than kind of individual performances, what I kind of want to go into a little bit on in this video is kind of talking points, really, and just because I think there was quite a few from this that I thought were interesting. And I think the first of those really was the fact that obviously we've spoken a lot about the fact that Liverpool have given up a few first halves in this season. It has, you know, Slot has been very good at sorting it in the second half, but a lot of that has come about because the first half plan hasn't been good or hasn't worked. And I think this was one of those cases, to be honest, that Liverpool did give up that first half, and it wasn't just the fact that they weren't making the challenges, but I think one of the things that was a real problem for Liverpool is he couldn't sustain attacking momentum, and a reason for that, for me, really, was the selection of Luis Diaz in that centre-forward role. Now, that is something that has worked really well for Liverpool so far this season, and he's used it in some really big games, and it's absolutely worked. But I think against a back three, it seemed like the wrong selection for me, because what was happening constantly is, you know, what you want to happen with Diaz when he's in that central role is he drops into deep areas, he takes a centre half with him, that leaves one centre half there to cover a massive space, and Salah or Gakpo on the other side, they run into that space, and that's where you get the runners. It's very kind of a Firmino-esque plan, really, to drag someone out, create the space, and the runners go in there and score the goals. But what happened, because you're up against a back three, and we saw this over and over again in the first half, is that Harry Maguire could follow him, go in as deep as you want with him, take him anywhere into midfield, no problem. And he knew that behind him he had Martinez and De Ligt to cover that space. So what Maguire, you know, got to the point where he was so confident with it. He was smashing into Diaz, he was winning the ball, giving United momentum, you know, kind of shrinking Diaz out the game because he kept smashing into him. So it just really, really wasn't working. And I thought, again, one of the problems then was that Slot's solution to that, which came around the point that Liverpool actually scored the first goal and equalised, was that he brought on Jota and Núñez. And for me, again, that was a slight misstep, really, from the manager. Again, someone who was so good at making those kind of substitutions, and his in-game management's been very good. But what ended up happening with that was you had Núñez in the centre-forward role, who was kind of a mixed bag when he came on, and then Jota had to drop down into a kind of a central midfield role, really, an attacking midfield role, which he did with some aplomb against Fulham, and I did think he was dangerous when he came on, but I think he would have been so much better pushed up against those centre halves, pushing them back, making little runs in behind that Maguire can't track either side of him. That's the real danger of Jota and the real beauty of him as a player. And as I say, it was the kind of right solution to bring Diaz off and put a striker on who would run in behind. But I don't think Núñez is as good at that as Jota is, and therefore Jota being stranded in that attacking midfield role, it just didn't kind of work for me. And I think a straight swap of Diaz for Jota in that situation would have worked much better. And as I say, a rare misstep for me for Slot. He's been absolutely immaculate in his substitutions and in-game tweaks so far. But as I say, that was kind of a bit of a key story of the first half and the second half for me, that didn't really work. And another one, I talked about the fact that the lack of tackles that Liverpool made, the lack of duels they were winning across the pitch, the fact they were so easy to counter on. You have to say that is not a thing that you often say about a team that's got Dominik Szoboszlai in it this season. I thought he was a real miss for them. Of course, he's had a bit of a funny run recently. He was rested for the Leicester game, came on, got himself a suspension through a booking, then obviously misses the West Ham game, and then unfortunately gets ill and so has to miss this one. So real blow. He would have clearly started the last two games, and I really did think that Liverpool missed him. I think, you know, when you've got a player like him, the energy that he brings, he really helps lead the press, which was miles off it today. The press really didn't work very well at all, I thought, but also kind of pinning teams in, because when they try to counter, you know, he's out there, he's aggressive, he's the first man there to close down that first ball and make sure it doesn't get out with an easy pass. And United were finding it too easy, I thought, to, as I say, get out with that first pass, and Szoboszlai is usually all over that to make sure teams are penned in. So I felt it was a real miss for that. And I don't think it helped that Curtis Jones, who was effectively his replacement, didn't really have a very good game today. I mean, he only wins 2 duels and 0 tackles today. So in terms of the combative elements of the game, I didn't think he was very good. Thought Mainu, given the run around a little bit at times as well, actually, he was quite impressive for me today. And so Jones, we know he can play better than that, but not his best performance. And I thought it was kind of exacerbated the fact that Dominik Szoboszlai wasn't there to win those tackles, win those duels, and win second balls, which was a massive issue. I can't believe I've not even mentioned it up to this point, actually. Second balls, United seem to be first to every one of those, and Dominik Szoboszlai doesn't allow that to happen. Sometimes it looked like United had an extra man on the pitch, whereas Szoboszlai maybe evens things out a little bit of that because his industry's work rate. So I felt like he was an absolutely massive miss. And now, just to wrap it up, my kind of final point, unfortunately quite a negative one, but I have to talk about it, was the performance of Trent Alexander-Arnold today. In a week where his future has been all the talk, he could have done with coming out and putting in a big performance, particularly in a massive match like this. Whereas in fact I thought he's maybe Liverpool's worst player on the pitch throughout the 90 minutes. Obviously goes off towards the end, and I don't like to single players out, but it was just so notable that he didn't play well. I mean, he lost all 5 of his duels, didn't make a single tackle, so his defensive work was really poor, and it felt like United were concentrating their attacks down his side. I'm pretty sure there's a statistic that shows that. So they saw a real weakness there and kind of exploited it, and Trent never looked comfortable from minute 1. And sometimes you can say, okay, he's not the best defender in the world. I think he maybe gets too much stick about that, although he was very, very poor today, I have to say. But sometimes it's about what he gives you on the other side of the ball. But unfortunately, he didn't provide much in terms of that either today. I mean, just 1 chance created, 0 out of 6 crosses completed. So he just wasn't given much at all. And I do wonder if Conor Bradley had been a little bit fitter, if he'd have been back for a little bit longer, we would have seen him on the pitch much earlier. And when he came on, he did win more duels, he won more tackles, and he was only on the pitch for 10, 11 minutes, something like that. Liverpool looked immediately more solid down that side. So yeah, it's one of those about Trent. Like I said, I don't want to put too much focus on one player being poor, but I think it's just too easy when you see a performance like that to say, look, his head is already in Madrid, he's ready to go. And the fact is, that's going to be a consequence of delaying your decision, not speaking out publicly. I mean, I know he said he doesn't want these contract talks played out in public, but the fact is, he's kind of got no choice now. Madrid are making offers for him. Real Madrid are using their Spanish press to kind of put messages out there. All the speculation is out there. The manager is getting asked about it on a constant basis. And so if you come in and put in a performance like that in what is the biggest game in English football, people are going to ask the question, what is going on? What is he thinking about at the moment? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? So it was getting to the point for me where I think almost Trent has maybe got to go and say something, hasn't he? He's got to maybe come out and make a decision, or just settle things down, even if that's to say he's leaving at the end of the season. Let's all enjoy him till the end of the season. But I think with it floating around like that, we're not entirely sure what's going to happen. That causes a bit of a problem, because when you put in a performance like that, as I say, there are going to be questions, there are going to be eyebrows raised about that level of performance. So, or you're going to get to a point where Arne Slot is going to look at performance like that and think Conor Bradley is my best option at right back, because he definitely looked it on the evidence of today's game. And I don't like saying that about a local lad who's been fantastic for Liverpool, but it was really, really poor today, and I think it's only fair to acknowledge that. Now I'm going to wrap up on a positive, because I think it's right to do that. I think we do have to have perspective about this. Okay, it was a poor performance by Liverpool, but they don't get beat. They do get a 2-2 draw, and it's not, as I say, they've not played well at all. So to get something out of the match is important, particularly when you think about the fact that Arsenal have dropped points this weekend, Chelsea have dropped points this weekend, so it's not a huge blow. And the fact is, Liverpool remain 6 clear, don't they? 6 points clear now with a game in hand, so they're in the exact same position as they were in coming into this weekend, and huge favourites to go on and lift the Premier League title, which is obviously what we're all excited about, and is extremely good news. And so we should put a little bit of focus back on that and not be too dragged down by the fact of what we saw today. And at the end of the day as well, you've got to acknowledge that sometimes teams are going to come and play really well against you, and I know it hurts because it's Manchester United and everybody wants to win this game, but the fact is, without being kind of too down on Manchester United, they do turn these games into a little bit of a cup final for them, don't they? It is a big game for Manchester United, so you've got to acknowledge that sometimes they're going to come and they're going to work their socks off and they're going to have a good plan, and sometimes it will come off for them. So as I say, Liverpool's overall position is still very, very positive, and I'm sure you know, they've got so many games coming up, they've got so many chances to quickly get this out of their system, not least that League Cup game against Spurs that's coming up in midweek. So I don't think Liverpool will dwell on this one too long, and if they get back to winning ways immediately, I think people will remind themselves pretty quickly that the Premier League table is looking pretty bright for Liverpool, and that this is just a minor blip, but not one that's really hurt the Premier League title chances. So let's all maybe focus on that one. So I'm going to leave it there anyway from Anfield. If you can like and subscribe, always massively helpful to the channel. Enjoying massive growth at the moment, so thank you to everyone who watches. And we haven't had many draws or defeats or disappointing results, so this is a rare one. It's usually all positive, so I'm sure there'll be many more to come. So I'll see you soon anyway for the build up to Spurs, and then of course my post-match reactions. So I'll see you all very soon.